Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I'm your host, Andy, and joined, as always, by co-host Hannah.
I was just about to say hi. Imagine if this episode took me 3 hours.
Is it that long?
No, but he talked about he didn't want to be hungry for the next 3 hours, and I was like, I mean, it's a long episode, but it's not going to be that long.
Well, and that you know what, for $2 a day, you can sponsor our producer's diet and feed a starving producer fish.
Our Tupperware collector.
Tupperware collector.
Oh, my goodness.
Here's where you intro yourself.
I don't have a follow-up to that. I feel really bad, asking for money. I'm fine. I can feed myself, just not while I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, mouse sounds are bad.
Mouse sounds are the absolute worst.
And Hannah didn't bring snacks this time.
Do I usually bring snacks?
You did last time.
I did.
Dunkin' Donuts, yeah.
You brought, Munchkins. Before that, you brought, gummy lobsters.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I've been...
You do tend to bring us food, which we appreciate.
At least lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. I didn't today, sorry.
Yeah.
It's fine, whatever.
Didn't have anything to do with what we were talking about.
Fish will just starve to death, Hannah. It's fine.
We were apparently recording this podcast for the next, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Somehow, I think I'll make it to dinner.
Oh, my goodness.
Are we talking about food today, Hannah?
We're not at all.
What are we talking about?
I asked ahead of time because I really didn't. I was worried.
I can't segue
I was
at all.
segueing somewhat.
So my dad gave me the idea for this episode. Hold on one second. And I got a lot of the information, majority of the information, honestly, from a YouTube account called AM Glimpse. Made a really thorough video online of about Rosie Ruiz. Do you guys know who that is?
She Boston Marathon?
Yes.
I do know who that is.
I think so, but I don't want to double check because I feel like I would be jumping way ahead and spoiling things.
I mean, for people who know who she is and know what she did.
Is she a Boston Marathon, quote unquote, runner?
Yes.
All right, I know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm there with you.
Yeah.
So,
because I believe this happened when I was a kid.
yes, not long ago. Honestly,
Set the Wayback Machine for what year?
I mean, the 80s or 70s or whatever. But, no, not long ago, my dad just sent me, literally handful of days ago, sent me a text, and he's like, this would be a cool episode.
That's a really good, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Shout out to Hannah's dad.
And I, clicked the link because he sent me the YouTube video, and I was like, oh, my God, I completely forgot about this chick.
Yeah.
The only reason I know about it, because I don't think a lot of people really know about it unless you're into running.
Or from
the area, because I would like to point out that both Andy and I know who this is, and
you may not realize this, Hannah.
we're not. We are not what you would call built for speed.
Sorry, I did one of my pauses that was too long. Or, I think from my age up.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know about it, right?
No.
So, I think you need to be of a certain age.
Yep.
If you are my age and younger, you may have context if you're someone who's interested in running the marathon. But beyond that,
I just remember when it happened.
The only reason I know about it is because I had my 5th grade math and science teacher was also the cross country coach.
Yep.
And he loved to get off topic, which is also why I don't know how to use fractions or decimals to this day. But he loved to get off topic, and he talked about Rosie Ruiz one day because it was in his field, right?
Yeah, it's a story. Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
It definitely is. So, Rosie Ruiz was born June 21st, 1953 in Cuba, and came to the States with her brother in 1962, so she was still pretty young. She did not come with her mom or father, and she stayed with her uncle and aunt. Rosie was...
You said she was Cuban?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to, put it in, historic,
Yeah.
60s.
That'd be basically right around the rise of...
with the embargo,
Yeah.
This
around
is
that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is right at the end of Batista. In the
dude
raise
from
of
Guardians of the
I was
Galaxy.
just going to say Dave. Dave.
No, I just can't remember his first name, but and also for some reason I was blanking on Fidel Castro's name.
Yeah.
But this would be right around that time, I think.
It is, yeah.
I admit I am not an expert in the political history of Cuba.
I know, it is a doozy, too. Rosie was interested in running in high school and ran cross country. She did suffer an injury. However, anyone who plays any sport that I knew growing up,
Oh, you always get hurt.
there'd be the girls who played soccer and one of them would have crutches the entire year. So,
Yep.
I wrestled in high school for weeks, and I blew out my elbow.
yeah. So that's not that weird. But either way, it was something she took an interest in earlier on. And after starting college, she was in a car accident that would reveal a pretty large tumor in her head. It was the size of I think they said, nectarine. So a little bit bigger than a peach. Around the size. I'd say apple, but apples come in too many different sizes.
It's a lot for the inside of your head.
Yeah. And
That's a lot for
That's
that had to be removed. It was benign, but it still obviously had to be removed. But it was the car accident that revealed that for her. She moved to New York City after college. She did have some issues. I don't know what else to call them. Allegedly stealing credit cards from an acquaintance of hers and racking up around 10 grand or something. And she did.
That is a lot of money for.
Yeah.
What would that be? The early 70s?
Yeah, and then
That's a lot.
She did not get any charges pressed against her because she ended up paying it back.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm saying around 10 grand. I think it was less than that, but still, that's
She had some transgressions.
Yes. In 1978, some more health issues appeared for her. So now she's in her later-ish 20s, mid to late 20s. There's a defect in her skull from when she had the tumor removed, so she did have to get that corrected with a plate in her head. And then supposedly this whole time she was an active runner. Still something she did recreationally, but she was also part of a running club.
Okay.
So it was a little bit more than just someone who goes running on their own.
Yeah.
She'd run through Central Park. I guess her place was right in the center of it all, near the Big Apple. And she, oh my gosh, I forget what she did for work. She did a lot of desk work, if I remember, in various. It wasn't she worked in retail or anything that. Her
so
job.
she was a office clerk of some kind.
Yes, exactly. So 1979, she decided to run the New York City Marathon. Mm-hmm. She did miss the cutoff date to be able to submit a form to run it, but she talked to marathon officials and she told them she was dying of brain cancer, so they waived that.
But Hannah, I don't think that's true.
Yeah. So.
But why would she be so untruthful if she's such an upstanding citizen?
So
I would like to point out at no point in this episode has Hannah called her an upstanding citizen.
So she ended up running at their discretion because they made the exception for her. And she ran it, but she was not a marathon runner. So she was not really trained to run a marathon at this point.
Let me tell you, it's not easy.
Yeah. What is the marathon? 26.3
26 and a half miles.
26 point, I think, 4.
4? Yeah, something like that.
Look, it's about 26 miles more than I'm ever planning on running in my life.
I don't like to drive 26 miles.
No, it's a lot. You get leg cramps. And,
yeah. So part of the way into the marathon, Ruiz felt like she wasn't going to make it. And she decided...
Understandable.
She decided to hop off the race, and she got on the subway and was making her way to the finish line. While she was there, she did not she didn't pull her number off. She stayed in the clothes that she was in. On the subway, she ended up talking to a photographer that was working that day who was on her way to the finish line. I think her last name was Moreau. And she was on her way there to take pictures of people cross the line, whatever photographer. It's the race day. It's a big day.
Marathon stuff.
Something to keep in mind, too, is that the New York City Marathon first started in 1970.
Oh, so it's a new thing.
It was newer. It wasn't even
Okay.
10 years old when Ruiz decided to run it. So Ruiz told her, like, oh, yeah, I'm on my way to the finish line, too. She told her that she had an injury and that she was just going to go.
She's like, I have a brain tumor in my leg.
She told her she was going to go and support the other runners.
Yeah.
And that's why she was heading there, and that's why she was on the train. But when she got to the finish line, she ended up going, not back on the route, but
Yeah.
she went right to a medical tent, but told them that she had officially crossed the finish line, and ran the race. So she was saying, like, yeah, I hurt my ankle. I just finished. And they gave her, I say start time, it's not the right word, it's finish time of 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 29 seconds. Do you guys know how good of a race time that is?
No.
That's crazy good. That's
I mean, if you take a subway to run a race, I mean, I feel like
but there's people out there who can run it, and they're the top of they're top of the pack.
that's
Yeah.
like elite numbers.
Yes, it is. 100%. I have a friend who ran the Boston Marathon several years ago at this point. It was the one that was the coldest, rainiest, snowiest
Yeah.
marathon. And I want to say she did it in like just under 5 hours with
It's a long way.
with plenty of training. She wasn't a runner before, but she did plenty of training and just wanted to keep pace. Like,
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of people get around that time that are not elite athletes. So it's like a whole 2 hour difference. Yes, obviously someone's going to get a really good time if they take the subway.
Yeah.
So she was celebrated by her peers, friends, colleagues this time, and she placed 11th among the women of the race.
Wow. How about for the other 10? Good for them.
Yeah.
They beat someone who took the subway.
So
How fast are you? I'm faster than a speeding subway.
How far ahead of them? How far ahead of her were they when she just said, "I'm done"?
yeah.
I don't know.
So
That's
Jumped
impressive,
on
though.
the two. I know, but it's like
They're like, my credit is the same as Superman's.
yeah. So she and again, when she was on the subway, she made no attempt to like hide herself or anything. I don't know if her plan was to sneak in there initially,
She
but
doesn't sound like someone who had a plan.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I just think she was like, well, I'm here and I can say it. And
Yeah,
let's-
no one seems to be stopping me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that time qualified her for the Boston Marathon, which she decided to run
Yep.
on her employer's dime. So her employer offered to pay.
Oh.
To-
Because there is an entry fee,
Yep.
and most of the time you have to like raise it for charity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's you have to raise a certain amount of. It's $10,000
Yeah.
now.
I only know because people have asked Inebri-art
Yeah.
to help them raise money.
I don't know what it was then, but it's 10,000 now.
Yeah.
And or at least when my friend ran. And so she started the race with the runners that were favored to win, the women runners. She was placed 50th, so her running number was 50.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this, but running numbers are associated with like your time.
Oh, so if you have number one, they assume you're the number one contender.
you
or
have,
you're
like-
the top qualifier.
Yes.
Ah.
Exactly.
So if you show up with number one, it means that you were
What do
wherever
you think
you
our
ran.
numbers would be? I feel like
I would get like an infinity symbol.
I was gonna say I feel like mine would wrap around
It's
my
just like
torso.
NA.
Yeah,
It'd be pi.
Yeah.
It just doesn't ever stop.
I feel like mine would just be like can't divide by 0.
Yeah. So she was up there, and she's with elite runners, two of which Jacqueline Garreau and Patty Lyons. So they were the two that were
Legit.
kind of set to win.
Yeah.
Not set to win, but that's what most people.
They were the favorites.
Yeah.
If
they
you were gonna bet on somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Boston Marathon was just a far more organized marathon. When do you guys know when the first one was? I forget. It's like 1890.
I mean, I do.
Oh,
but
it's-
I'm not gonna
it's-
tell you.
I think it's like 1890. I think.
Yeah, it's
We haven't done a Boston Marathon episode, have we?
No, it is on
No.
the list though. And
Yeah.
then I was like, should I just do an episode on the Boston Marathon
No.
after
This
this?
is, yeah.
Too many Boston Marathon episodes in a row.
Too much running.
Yeah.
I'm tired now. All right, so the Boston Marathon was established in 1897.
I was so close. Yeah. Considering I probably read that like 8 times over while I was doing
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah.
And didn't bother to write it down. So I probably just said to myself, I'll just say it's around 1890. So obviously way more time to substantiate itself, way more organized.
I mean, at that point, it had been almost 100 years.
Yeah, and it was just far more of a documented race.
Yeah.
In so many different ways.
They just paid more attention.
Yeah.
Because it was established and
I see what you're
they
getting.
cared.
Yeah. So
There were more rules. Things had gone wrong enough where there was more rules and more oversight.
People paid attention
Yeah.
to, going
Subway.
off course and taking the tea.
So, similarly to the New York City Marathon, although she had been training to do the Boston one, it was only a few months after the New York City one.
And to me, that's why it seems like she's very much like making it up on the fly because like she's training for it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, nah, it's far.
It's just not enough training, I guess. So she bailed out pretty early on in the race, which, for those who don't know, the Boston Marathon starts in Hopkinton, which is 26.3 or 4 miles away from Boston, where it finishes.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to
It is his.
catch a train from there.
Yeah.
Just to give people some understanding
Yeah.
of the logistics from that.
It is not very easily accessible via public transportation.
No, so here's my thing. I don't know how many miles she ran before she gave up. It's not too far out of Hopkinton. Like you don't have to go too far until you're out of Hopkinton and in the next random town in Massachusetts that you run through, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, one, how did she know where the commuter rail was? Because you can't take the T from any of those.
Right. Yeah, because she wasn't local, right?
No. And
So
then,
do you think it was premeditated? Like,
this is what I'm saying. I'm like, these are like not towns you like if you're unfamiliar with, like how would you know where to go?
do you think she Googled it on her smartphone?
And then it was this 1970.
So she's got like Waze going, or
Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my god. So she at least had to ask for directions or know where some stops were beforehand.
There's Holliston. I know there's a Holliston stop.
there's one in Ashland, isn't there? It's
Yeah.
like
I
the
think there's
last.
Ashland. So there's
Here's
Like
the thing.
Ashland is like the end of the whatever red line, green line, green line.
Holliston.
Oh,
I
that's
think is
true.
the end of something
Ashmont?
No, that's Ashmont.
Ashland.
Yeah. No,
Holliston-
Ashmont is I think
Holliston's
the
a
end of the
stop.
line. Yeah,
Off the T or the commuter
I'm
rail?
almost positive off the T.
Okay.
Hang
off
on.
the T. Yeah.
The T.
Either way,
See, this is the part of the T that I don't deal with very often. Don't know because
yeah, we don't go in that direction.
no, it's I know how to get to like JFK,
Yeah.
and I know how to get to Fenway, and everything else is kind of like
You're going orange or whatever.
yeah, here there be dragons.
Silver.
You didn't
Like,
go to Harvard Square?
No.
everything goes to
if
Harvard
I go to
Square
if I'm
eventually.
I know.
taking the T into Boston, I'm 95% of the time going
So
to a
here's
baseball
the
game.
thing: regardless of whether or not it was a T stop or a commuter rail, these they're towns. It's not the city. It's not. You don't get like MBTA notifications everywhere.
You don't have
So
like
I'm looking for Holliston, and it keeps giving me like the
The clothing.
Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
thought there was a Holliston.
So
station. I could be wrong.
either way, not a super
is it
accessible
Hollister?
train.
Maybe.
Not a super accessible train to take
No.
for her. That's what I'm getting at. These are random town. I'm sorry, that part of Massachusetts. For those who don't visit that area a lot, completely random, and it's not gonna.
The biggest
It's not
thing
like-
out there is like Framingham.
It's not like going
Yeah.
to the city
Yeah.
where you could walk a block and just find another stop.
Oh yeah, no.
no, it is
It's you have to get to that stop.
The stop,
At
and
that
then
town.
there's another one like 8 miles away.
Exactly. So
I mean, it is not going to help much for people who do not understand, but you are basically getting off 495 and starting a marathon.
yeah.
And 495, for those of you who are not local, does not get close to Boston.
No.
495's whole shtick is
because it goes the other way.
I mean, no, literally. Like,
Yeah.
I found this out fairly recently, and I found it super interesting. But like, the reason it's called 495 is
because it's not 395.
no, it's because it literally it's part of Route 95, but
Yeah.
it's basically a side route to avoid the city. It's why DC has a 495 too. It does the same thing. Basically,
Hopkinton
you're
is literally closer to Worcester than Boston.
Yeah.
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 So that's what I'm saying. It just seems crazy that she's there. So she hopped off at some point, took a train.
Yeah.
Where that was, I'm not exactly
Yeah, I
sure.
don't
Might have
know.
been an Amtrak train for
So honestly,
That's not even really that much of a joke.
and for her to be able to, so let's just, I'm gonna, before we get to the end, she makes a very good time. So I don't think she spent a lot of her own time running because
So
she's,
you think this was more premeditated?
I just don't see how it couldn't have been.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Because I
This,
I don't get it.
This YouTuber does not mention it. He might not be from Massachusetts or of the area at all.
So he assumes that we might have like competent mass transit
Yeah,
running
we
halfway
don't.
across the state.
Yes.
No, we have. It's
So
a mess.
If you drew if you put a pin in Boston and like a string and drew a circle, Hopkinton is almost as far as Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Yeah. So either way, everyone listening who's of the area gets it. This
So what
is
I'm saying is Hopkinton's far.
I just mean logistically for town
Yeah.
setup of like for us to walk to our commuter rail right now, it's a long walk.
Yeah.
And if
yeah,
we weren't from the area, we would have no idea where it is.
As someone who's not from the area,
Actually, the only one I know that is now closed.
where is your? Do you even have a commuter rail stop?
Commuter-
Yeah, it's Curtis Park.
No, isn't that one closed?
I thought that one was closed.
It's open on random. They might have closed it, but either way, what's the next one? The whole next town over.
Kingston?
In Kingston.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
How would you find like this woman probably had to walk the train tracks till there was a train finally waiting for her.
It would just
She
jump
just
on.
stuck her thumb out.
Yeah. So
Hoboed it.
so either way,
Just stick with a bag on the end.
moving beyond
This is
that,
impressive running.
because we don't need to talk logistics anymore. She
Hannah's like, shut up.
no, she hopped off at some point with giving herself enough time to make really good time via train.
Yeah.
So for reference, they do record checkpoints for people at
To make sure you actually
the marathon.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Garreau was recorded at the halfway mark, mile 21 and mile 24. At no point was Ruiz recorded either ahead or behind her.
Yeah.
So she gave up less than halfway in,
Definitely.
and you said the last one was what, mile 24.
Yeah.
So she obviously jumped back on
Like right before.
with like
Oh wait, so the last one's 24. She was not recorded there, so she jumped
within the last 2 miles. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
if not less, because I'm not surprised if she's like, no, I'm not running 2 miles.
So
Like
Where's
the last 200 yards, you're like, oh, I'm gonna
It's
jump
like,
on here.
okay,
I can see the finish line.
like, yeah, where can't I see the finish line so they can't see me coming out of the bushes?
A little before the finish line, folks at the end were expecting to see top runners come to finish for the
Yeah.
women's part.
Yeah.
And then they see someone they don't recognize, which is Ruiz. And she clears the finish line. She's using people to support her as she's doing that stumble.
Oh, she's selling it.
yeah.
She is.
Stumbling into the police officers there, and then using them
Hang on,
as-
fish. Selling it? I'd be doing that if I ran upstairs.
So,
Yeah, but she's like, air quotes, been training for the
So-
marathon.
so
She should at least be able to run a couple hundred feet.
her finish time is 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 56 seconds. That is third fastest time of a woman ever recorded for the marathon. Like,
Okay.
and
like-
21-minute improvement from the couple months beforehand that she ran the New York one.
See?
Marathon.
She just never practiced before. Now she got it.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm looking it up. The course record for women on the Boston Marathon was set in 2014
Yeah.
by Buzanish Deba, or Deba. 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 59 seconds.
Yeah. So, like, that she's within the range of, like, how quickly people are still running it today. with like advancements of footwear, training, and all that.
And yeah.
So
More training, less trains.
yes.
Yeah.
So she was escorted away to like the crowning ceremony. Immediately received the medal. They put her crown on her. It was praise and celebration. Everyone's like, "Who are you? Where did you come from? This is crazy." Garreau shows up, and she thought she was in the lead because she hadn't seen any other woman overtake
Of course,
her.
yeah, because she
'cause,
was in the lead.
And she shows up to see that this other woman had won first place, and she thought she was going to get like lots of cheers and receive that.
Oh my god, how like disheartening.
How much does that have to hurt when you're coming out? It's like, I've got this, I'm winning.
Yeah.
And you realize, and you hear the cheers, and you realize that they're not for you, and
Yeah.
Or just like
nobody is paying attention.
or just running across the finish line and be like,
Anyone?
guys,
Guys.
hello,
And
I'm
then you
over
just,
here.
And then you just fall over because you've actually run a marathon, and
That's
so
unfortunate.
brutal.
That poor
Yeah,
woman.
I know. So the men's winner, Bill Rogers, was publicly skeptical. There was doubt immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because who was this lady, and
Yeah.
how did she win the marathon?
And he was publicly skeptical about it. He noted that Ruiz's outfit was not what runners wear, at least not ones that know what they're doing. She had a short sleeve cotton T-shirt that looked
It said,
like
"I heart the MBTA."
it was like it was like also she didn't pick like conspicuous clothing, which I thought was funny because I should say when she took the trains, her train route in Boston, far more like camouflage.
She hit it more. Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't trying to.
So
talk
she didn't
to
have like her
anyone.
runner's number talking to somebody going to the finish line to photograph.
Yes, yeah.
So it was definitely more.
This is definitely
planned out.
like-
yeah.
So she
Now that it worked, she's trying to do it again.
Yeah.
So she didn't have like the clothes that they would normally wear, which is like, something that's a little bit more moisture wicking, no sleeves. Like I said, she had like a cotton T-shirt on.
I don't want to be gross, but I feel like
It's usually a tank top and like
I'm just feeling
slightly
like
too
if
short
someone
shorts,
had just
right?
run 26 miles and you went to like stand next to them, you'd be like, you definitely did. Like,
So
you
that
don't
was-
stink.
No, that was another thing. He noted that her like disposition at the time was
Yeah.
not overly sweaty, didn't like come off flushed at all, like someone
Yeah.
who had just ran that much. Just didn't appear to have the same fatigue that someone who even in their top of their game would have at the end of a
Right,
marathon.
Yeah.
I feel like he noted on something else too. He was very critical of, rightfully so. He also noted that she just was lacking the physique of an athlete that could run that quick.
Yeah.
Not that she was a thin woman. And
Right.
she was in shape, but she wasn't.
That and shade.
She wasn't.
She wasn't like built like a runner.
two
Yeah.
2.5 hour
There's a
marathon.
difference between your okay shape and you're an elite
Like you
athlete.
do have like when you see somebody who is like a long distance runner,
Yeah.
you kind
you
of
can
can tell.
tell.
You
Yeah.
you can kind of look and go, oh, you don't.
Yeah, your metabolism's outstanding.
Yes.
You've
Yeah.
never even seen a French fry.
Or maybe they do. Maybe
It's like I hate you just a lot.
Again, so she was like by no means not someone who wasn't in shape, but she didn't have the look of
Physique.
someone, the physique.
She's
of
not
someone,
the physique of a
an elite athlete.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really. And she was like I said, yeah, she wasn't sweaty. He caught that really quick. Rogers asked her Rogers had gone up and like made conversation, asked her about her splits, which is a term used for marathon runners, which is the time it takes you to run each mile, and she didn't know what that was. And anyone who had trained to run,
time.
yeah, anyone who had trained to run a mile would definitely know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, what are your splits? I don't know, like banana.
Yeah, I can get like about 1 foot off the ground.
Yeah, I could almost do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
It's more of a straddle. So Ruiz was interviewed that day by Catherine Switzer, and she's the second woman ever to run the Boston Marathon. There's pictures of her getting like pummeled by guys because I don't know if it was necessarily allowed at the time
Yeah.
when she ran it. So Switzer was on for interviews that day, so she obviously interviewed her, and I think this lady definitely knew what was up. I saw the interview, and she asked her about her training and her intervals, and like she was like, "How could you have?" Like, you must have trained like crazy with intervals to something along those lines. I'm saying it incorrectly, I'm sure. To be able to improve your time so much from the New York Marathon. And Ruiz replied something along the lines of, "You're the second person to ask me that, and I don't know what that is."
Well,
and she was like,
not good at selling that.
Yeah, and she was like, intervals are how you increase speed to be able like to do what you did.
Yeah.
You have a really good time for both marathons. And you have a crazy increase of time over the last 3 months.
And out of these 2 marathons, no one knows who you are.
Yeah. And she's like, "Do you have someone training you?" And she's like, "No, I'm my own like coach and whatever. I'm guiding myself," and not giving good answers. And then Switzer says this is just a blip, sort of out of context of the whole sentence that she says.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, she goes, "All right, well, like, here you have it. A mystery woman winner. We missed her at all checkpoints." And then she goes on to say, like, "Oh, this is our winner," and whatever.
So they were pretty much onto her right away at some point.
I think the runners were.
Yeah.
All the runners.
The people in the know were onto her. Yeah.
Definitely all the runners were immediately. And that, like, just like I said, the Switzer person, I shouldn't say Switzer, Catherine Switzer, I think, even though she was doing her job and, like, probably trying to make it...
really trying her hardest, not just, like...
This cheater.
I felt like she had an idea that something was up.
Yeah.
Because she was just also very shocked. And that didn't... that came through on the microphone.
If there's anybody who should know what a woman who finishes a marathon was supposed to, like, react like, it would have been her.
Yeah. So I think the next day, Ruiz and Rogers, the male winner, appeared on the morning show, and Rogers, I think before they went on, confronted her before and just told her it was like her last chance to set things right, and if a mistake had been made, she can come clean now.
Kind of one of those, I'm going to close my eyes and someone put back the bagel that was stolen.
The bagel.
And it's like, look, if you do it now, it's a mistake. If you keep going,
yeah,
like, at some point there is no backsies.
So Bill took his suspicions to a different Bill Clooney, or William Clooney, the marathon director, and Clooney was hesitant to pursue off the evidence they had because it was still fairly circumstantial. Even though they had those things in place, Ruiz was kind of able to explain away a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I should note that when
I was just running so fast through the checkpoint, you couldn't see me.
when Rogers confronted Ruiz on that show, I guess she like broke down in tears and was like, I won. Like, I won the race. Like, why are you doing this to me? But yeah, there's circumstantial because it's a he said, she said kind of thing.
Right.
And he didn't want it to reflect poorly on the marathon. So rumors were so public that Ruiz was actually hounded by press about it. Immediately.
Yeah.
She even held a press conference and never wavered from her story that she won. She claimed that she was mistaken for a man because she had a pixie haircut, or a short haircut.
That's why no one saw her.
So that she wasn't, like, she was just misplaced for a lesser...
like, basically, she wasn't
she's at
the fastest woman. She was, like, the 23rd fastest guy.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why they missed her at the checkpoints. And then she insisted that these allegations of her cheating were because they wanted someone else to win.
They were jealous.
Yeah. They were like, no. She's like, they were already had favorites going in, and that's why they just can't handle me winning. Because someone else was their favorite. Ruiz did have one friend to stand by her story, Steve Merrick, who I think he was like the organizer of her running club she was in, and he was standing by her claim, saying that he like saw her
Throughout, or
I don't know,
yeah.
saw her.
I've seen her before.
Yeah. Clooney pushed forward with the investigation, as did the New York Marathon at this point now. So now 2 marathons are working actively to figure out how she could have cheated. At this point, really just a couple days after the marathon, a Harvard student, and they mentioned his name, so I apologize I didn't put it in there, but a Harvard student who was going to watch the race was stepping up around the right area at the right time, and he remembered seeing Ruiz hop back into the race in the final not even mile.
30 feet away.
Yeah. And he did report it. And then the photographer that she talked to at length on the train in New York City came forward that same day after she had seen Ruiz's winning report in the news. So she's like, what's up?
I've got the students' names.
Oh, thanks.
It's John Faulkner.
Yes.
And Sola Mahoney.
Yeah. So they saw them. They were like just on their way to just go watch the marathon. And that's who they like distinctly remember her. Like I said, she could have.
I feel like if you were sitting there and someone pushed past you to jump into the street and start running,
he
you'd be
just
like,
kind of figured that it was someone that I don't like. He was in an interview and it was like either that they were supposed to be doing that or like they were just going to feel the glory and weren't actually part of it anymore or something. But yeah, he came forward, and so did that photographer. So now there's 2 people coming forward saying like, no, I definitely I have an eyewitness account of this person not being where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
8 days after the Boston Marathon, Ruiz was disqualified from the New York City Marathon for cheating. And this actually disqualified her automatically from the Boston Marathon because
she wasn't qualified to run it.
Yes.
Ah.
So she was stripped of her title. She was actually invited to run the marathon the next year.
Really?
Yeah, because they were like,
kind of like, if you're
just out of spite.
If you're so good,
no, if you say you can run it, then you're welcome to come back and run it next year. We'll qualify you.
And
for
these 2 guys are gonna run right next to you the entire time, or ride a bike.
So even though she was stripped of her title, it's rumored / noted that she never gave back her medal. She still had it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then life was pretty high stakes for her after that. She was fired from her job.
Yeah.
Because they put her out to the marathon.
Because they spent.
That's right. They
spent 10 grand. They spent whatever the equivalent of 10 grand was in.
Yeah, or whatever the qualifying amount of money.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because it could have been like $1,000 at that point.
Right. But still.
She
defrauded work.
Yes.
Yeah.
1982, she was arrested for embezzling $60,000 from her other job, her new job that she was again at like she did the books for like a realtor company.
Yep.
She then moved to Florida and became part of a major triad of cocaine dealers.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. It was busted because it was such a big in like a
because I can smuggle it into the country.
No, it was
but then she like ran in like 40 feet before the American border.
The bus actually didn't involve her. It was her 2 partners in it.
Yeah.
And then she actually turned herself in because of it.
Oh, okay.
But they were busted by an undercover for a really big deal. Like
a lot.
A lot.
So she learned her lesson.
Like 1980s, a lot of cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the 80s, that's a lot of cocaine. So she learned her lesson.
Yeah.
Because the marathon, she just denied it the whole time and just never acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And now with the cocaine bust, she learned how to take responsibility for. Look, I'm stretching here, but it's all I got.
I should say the $60,000 embezzlement. I think she ended up getting just probation for, and then for her turning herself in for the cocaine bust, she ended up. It was like 1 year of something, and then like 5 years of probation. She got slaps on the wrist.
So it's pretty light.
60 grand for
Yeah. Like, she did.
Yeah.
I forget the exact amount, but I remember just thinking, like, what? That's crazy.
It wasn't awesome, but could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. She married a year later after that that cocaine bust.
I don't want to judge, but that guy sounds like a fool.
This enabled her to change her last name.
That's probably for the best.
And anytime, like, she had a new job or whatever, and people would be like, oh, are you the person from the marathon? She would laugh and say no. She had 3 kids in the span of, like, just over 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was...
Irish triplets.
Yeah, and then she shortly divorced that husband. In 1988, she met her lifelong girlfriend, who she would be with until she passed away on July 8th, 2019. At the age of 66, she had a 10-year battle with cancer. She never admitted to cheating publicly, ever. She always said she won. Steve Merrick, the person who stood by her, did, I believe somewhere, supposedly he said that she confided in him that she did take the train, but didn't realize how early in the race she was. Like, she didn't mean
like,
to
she didn't mean to win.
She meant to fit to look good, but not like...
Yeah.
So she just came out and suddenly she's crossing the line.
I feel like it's one of those things. You feel like, oh, this is my plan. And they're like, you won. You're like,
oh,
well, I'm kind of committed now.
Yeah. And then she, I guess, still had her gold medal. The person she stole first place from, who ended up getting the first place title after she was disqualified.
Because she, ran the whole race.
Yeah. Jacqueline, she was running a race in Florida where Ruiz had lived.
Yeah.
So Ruiz met her there and, like, officially introduced herself because they never actually met. And this was, like, several years later.
That is
super awkward.
Yeah. And she was like, hey, why did you do that in Boston? And I guess Ruiz was like, I won that race and I'd run it again and win. So she stuck with it.
She talked some trash.
Why would you? Man, that is...
I respect the trash talk.
I respect the trash talk, but I think I have to acknowledge, I don't have the brazen ego necessary to win a race, get caught because I did a bad job,
and then go meet the person you stole it from.
Meet the person I stole it from, and then talk trash to them.
Yeah.
Is like just a series of incredibly brazenly ballsy. Gosh.
I know.
Like, I do not have the chutzpah to pull that off.
Yeah.
Any of that off.
And the best part about this is a lot of her interactions are recorded, so you can literally, like, look up videos of
go
her.
and watch her lie to people.
Channel 4, yeah.
And there was a lot of media attention around it. So
oh yeah, I remember it very specific.
And I forgot to mention the Boston Marathon. They went through, like, all photographers' pictures of people at certain checkpoints, and she wasn't at, like, any of them.
Yeah, I wonder why.
So
I feel like that's such, like, of the time.
Yeah.
Because now there's no way.
No, and she inspired a lot of the protocols they have today. So now runners they all have sensors on them.
Yeah.
And, like, it's gotten to obviously it's advanced now, but you can track people.
No, you can track people, but I mean, everybody has a camera now.
Oh,
like,
and
I'm sure there's cameras in subways.
They do more checkpoint.
Yeah.
Like, things.
They have more than halfway in, like, the last mile.
I think I feel like the first, for when my friend ran it, and I'm sure it's only progressed and advanced throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like at, like, mile 12 is when the sensor, like, registered. So, like, you wouldn't really see where anyone was out until, like, mile 12 or something like
that.
Yeah,
so it didn't really count as running a marathon until 12 miles. Oh, no. Nope.
I'd be like 100 yards and I'd be like, I'm good.
But
it's like I would toss my number onto, like, one of those chase cars they have for the elite runners.
Yeah.
And then just take a nap.
So, they definitely, even though it was already a very well-organized race before, it only got even more...
restricted?
Yeah, in a way. And then, I don't think anyone's ever cheated again like that. That's for sure.
That's funny.
It is a astonishingly. I don't really like. I keep wanting to call it brazen because it's just.
Again, it was a different time, so like people weren't used to being that visible all the time. Like
Yeah.
like now, you talk to people like, oh, you can't go anywhere without someone seeing you or photographing you, blah blah.
Yeah, because I assume
that time it just wasn't like that.
I'm assuming at the time the whole like nowadays the whole race is televised.
Yeah.
It's filmed the whole time. It is
Right.
live on TV from
Well, I mean
the
that
beginning to the end.
like now if you jumped in between two people to jump into the race, someone's gonna have it on camera on their phone.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you're talking that time in the 80s where probably most of the ATMs had a camera, but not all. Like it just it just wasn't a thing where you
it's
weren't.
just what like if those two random college kids had not been there when she jumped onto the track, that you'd have no idea where she came from. Mm-hmm. You just knew where she wasn't.
But yeah, she died with her truth, I guess.
I mean, I feel like
truth.
We all know
calling
it.
it her truth is a very big stretch.
Yeah.
She
Her
died
story.
committing to her lie,
Yeah. But
which I will respect the
Yeah.
commitment to the bit. But at the same time, it's like at some point, take the L and
I
realize
guess I meant her truth, like her, like she only she knows. Only she knows how she.
how she like
only she knows
how she got the tea
how she found
from Hawkinson.
only she knows how
Doesn't
she found a
go
train
there,
from Hawkinson. It's like, did she take the train? Was there a cab?
I was gonna say, did she take a
Right.
taxi?
Like
That's what I'm saying.
Like I feel like a taxi would make a
A
little
taxi
more
to
sense.
the train station, because you could get into a taxi and be like, take me to the train
That's what
station.
I'm saying.
yeah. Like especially if you're
I
just
think
doing
there
it
was a
in
little
like
more.
a t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember her being caught because someone saw her on the subway, which now, hearing the story,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that was a different,
was
like,
a different
in my
race.
brain, that
Yeah.
all got,
Yeah.
like, melded together.
Yeah. She 2 marathons.
Yeah.
Just don't run them.
Yeah, why do you want it, man?
Like I have never cheated to win a marathon.
Or like, you know what? Just walk the rest of the way. I don't know.
Run a
like,
5K, run something
Yeah.
shorter.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's the
Well, see, that's the
story.
thing. It
know.
seems like she did run 5Ks, or at least like she was a runner.
Yeah.
She just decided to.
She's like, I'm gonna push myself.
I'm going to push myself
I'm
by
going to push
lying.
myself through the little turnstile thing
Yeah.
onto the subway, and then
And this is like before Charlie cards. So you gotta
Yeah.
get like the little yellow
The
token.
tokens.
yeah, it's like there's
Which is, I mean, that's another thing. Like,
That's the whole thing.
There's no
Like-
Charlie card, so there's no proof of her buying. Like, you
Yeah.
can pay in cash.
yeah. I mean, you almost have to because it was the early '80s.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But so yeah, my theory is you cannot show up to a random town in Massachusetts and know where to go. So
No. Cab.
yeah, that's true. So I think there was just a little bit more planes, trains, and automobiles involved.
Yeah,
than
so-
just a train.
So at this point, we think there is, at the time, a random cabbie in Hopkinton who knows exactly what happened, and it never said a word.
Maybe. Or like the next town over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like somewhere along the way, there was a dude who gave her a ride that never copped
Yeah.
to it.
She could have gotten a ride the whole time.
Yeah.
You never know. Until she got to like the actual T area.
Yeah, just get me close enough to town where I can jump on the.
Right.
Take me to the nearest T station.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course she's from New York, so she'd say subway and it'd be very.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
even then, the cabbie would have to know where that is.
And then
Well, I think that's his job, isn't it?
yeah, they're
Yeah, it was different though. Like, you can't, like, if you're in Hopkinton and someone came to you and said, drive me to the nearest T station.
If my job was to drive people places, I feel like,
Yeah, they know.
if anything,
Maybe.
I'm just saying, I think that there are certain. I'm not saying I wouldn't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of the area, but I think there are certain landmarks that I would know that.
But it's asking someone outside of their town, like, because there isn't one in Hopkinton. There's not one in the next town. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying?
What I'm saying is I'm not.
Because like I can be like Braintree ?
Yeah.
Yeah, but your job isn't to take people places.
I understand that.
I'm just
But
saying.
most cabs are within a certain.
I'm just saying.
radius.
I just feel like there's some expectation of. I think I would know where the major stops were,
But I think
I would know how to find the nearest train and T
I
station.
think
Even
there's
from
more
Hopkinton.
than just a train that she took, or
Yeah.
like there's a little bit more planning or a little bit more insightfulness to it.
This goes a lot deeper than just jump down the train
You
and
can't just jump on a train.
she didn't just
subways all the way down.
Yeah. Our very multifaceted, very accessible trains that we have in Massachusetts now. But either way, that's the story of her. And when my teacher told me about this, he was still so livid about it and like so enthusiastic about telling the story. I thought it had happened in the time that I was alive. And then this is me just finding out doing research on it that it happened like 10 years before I was born. Because of the
So
way
this would have
he
been
told
what,
the
like the
story.
mid 2000s when he told you this?
I was in the 5th grade, so 2001, 2000.
So at the time, it was more than 20 years old.
Yeah, but the
He's
way
just
he
real angry.
the way he talked
Yeah.
about it, I was just like, oh, this must have just happened, and I don't watch the news, so how would I know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the spot where we stop talking and start running. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.